Alrighty guys, this is snugsonblitz and I'm back with another video for you today. So we're up to tier 9 guys. We're almost there. We're almost there. Yep. We're past the hump. Tier 8 is done with. Now we can move on to tier 9, which is a much smaller tier in comparison. Yeah, tier 9 is one of my favorite tiers, always has been. I think they're very balanced here, but let's see as we analyze the tanks today. How many tanks will be in OP? How many tanks will be in Yuck? Now, I did my best to rearrange the tanks so that I can find them quickly. One tank I can't seem to find. This says it's a blitz list, but I've got some tanks I've never seen before in tier 9, and I can't find one tank that belongs in tier 9. So you're going to have to bear with me. You're going to have one of those placer tanks for that tank when we get to it. Anyway, we're going to start off with the German line, and we're going to start off with the Mauschen. And the Mauschen is somewhere around here. It's not a hard tank to play, and the armor can be a pain to deal with. I think anyone who just can push forward and absorb some shells, do some damage, wiggle a little bit, I guess I'm going to put it in strong. I was going to put it in normal to begin with. A lot of players do poorly in it, but it takes time to kill it. And during that time, you can help out your team because you're absorbing shells, you can dish out some damage. So yeah, you don't want to be sniping this tank, though. I mean, no, don't snipe in this tank. We'll also go with the VK4502. It's a little trickier because it's a side scraping tank and one of the better ones in the game. Like its brethren, the VK9001. This feels like the younger brother. Gotta learn how to side scrape. So once you learn how to side scrape, you're golden. I'm gonna put in strong. Again, it's got decent armor. Even if you're not side scraping, you'll get a few bounces against those lower caliber guns, so you can punish tier 8s and things like that. So that's why it goes in strong. It's got enough hit points to keep you alive on the battlefield. The Jagdtiger. I think it's a great tank. It's a very strong tank. I just don't think people who are newer to the game know how to really use this tank. Remember, I'm choosing these tanks based on what average people can do. So we're talking 45 to 49% around that area. And are they going to be able to use these tanks quite easily and get used to them and figure out how to support your team? We're not talking about pros here. Pros will choose different tanks and understand how to use tanks much better than I can even. So everybody has their own opinion. This is not my opinion of what tanks I like. I'm going with tanks that I can see most players can do decently well and contribute to their team by either taking shots, absorbing shots, dishing out the damage, spotting, etc., without too much trouble. So, what else we got on this list? The Leopard. I think this has to go in bad. I see a lot of players struggle with this, and it is an awful grind. Do not play this tank stock. Absolutely not. It's a horrible, horrible tank stock, and you will hate it. You will average under 45% if you're not a very good player in this tank. It's a tough one to get a handle on. So yeah, be careful with this tank. So it's going in bad right now. Definitely one of the weaker tier 9 tanks. The WT, I mean, all you have to do is snipe. That's all your team needs you to do. They don't ask you to push in. They don't ask you to use your armor. They just expect you to snipe from the back of the map. So it's going to go in strong. I think people can do well in it because it's just an easy tank to get the hang of. Likewise, the Ritter, it goes right beside it. So far we've got strong and one bad. So it's not so bad. What else we got here? Now, I see we've got this tank. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. Maybe it's the wrong color. That would explain a lot of things. Anyway, this is the E50M. I'm going to go, it doesn't quite have the armor of these two tanks. You are expected to spot and do more things for your team, so I'm going to have to put it in normal. It doesn't quite have the livability of these tanks. These tanks because they're just hidden, these tanks because they have armor, and this tank can stay at the back as well. Of course, we have this tank, the KPZ-70. It's got enough hit points to keep you on the battlefield. The gun is competitive. You can do a little bit of damage. I mean, it's not hard. 3 shells and you've done about 1800. So, yeah, easy to contribute to the team. Moving on to the Soviet tanks, we have the ST-1. I'm gonna again put it in the same area. It's strong, especially with that turret. Do not play this tank stock. Oh god, it stinks as well. Stock is down here, but it's solid. It'll get bounces, hull down. It's tough to pen. Yeah, definitely a tank you don't want to mess with. The IS-8. This used to be down here. It used to be one of the weaker tier 8 tanks. Sorry, tier 9 tanks. But yeah, it's got a little bit of sneaky buff here and there, and I think now I would move it up here. It's got enough hit points, and if you play it as a medium, I think you're golden. So just stay with your meds, and I would choose this over the E50. Yeah, the E50 can do some ramming, but this is not a slouch either in the sense that it can keep up with most mediums, I think. So I'm gonna keep it in strong. Gun does hit hard. K91, I don't think this is a hard tank to play. It's got 3 shells. It's pretty powerful. Just get behind cover, reload, pop out, shoot. Gun's solid, and can be a little bit of a hard pen. So I see people do well in it. I think simply because what a reloader, sorry, autoloader. I apologize about that. What else we got? Have we finished the Soviet tanks? Oh, did I move some of the Soviet tanks over here? Oh, I did. Oops. So I don't want to get to the American tanks just yet. The 704 again, you're asked to snipe. It's okay. It's not very hard to get the handle on. Um, yeah, I guess it's strong. Um, I yeah, okay. I'm gonna keep it there for now. We have the T54. Yeah, it's. I see a lot of players do quite well in it. It's got that kind of troll armor. It's got good speed and getting you out of trouble. I think it's got the edge over the E50. And the Object 752. Yeah, I see a lot of players do well on this. This is an OP tank. It is. It always has been. This is right now the only OP tank that I can see. We'll see if we get to the end of this list if I can find another one. Yeah, those 2 shells, the armor, the maneuverability. It's got no real weaknesses. I mean, like any tank, it's got a lower glacius, but that's about it. It's a strong tank. What can I say? So we are done with the Soviet tanks, and now we're going to move on to the American line, starting with the T-54E1. I don't see players do well in this tank. It's going to go in bad. The gun doesn't have HE as well, so you can't rack up nice damage getting behind tanks. You are a medium. Your job is supposed to flank, so if you get around, an American tank would be nice to have HE. I don't know why they don't give it HE. Just give it HE. It's not OP. With HE, I'd put it into normal maybe, but sadly, it's a tank a lot of people struggle with, and I think it's because in tier, in that sorry tech tree, it goes from light tanks to medium tanks to a heavy tank. So yeah, it's hard to get hard to get the hang of the play style of these tanks, and people might expect to be to play one way and think, well, it's not really that fast, or it doesn't have the armor, so it's bit of a mixed bag for me on that one. M103, I think it doesn't have quite the ability to stay in the strong category. It needs something. It used to be up there, but now I just think it's a normal tank. The Yo, yeah, just don't get caught out alone and you'll be fine. It's a strong tank. That gun can really rip tier 8 tanks apart. But once you've fired them, get behind cover. So leaving it strong right now, maybe very strong. I'll think about that. T95, it's just slow. That's the problem. So with many of these other tank destroyers that you just sit back and snipe, you can just relocate if you need to. Yak Tiger, maybe not so much, but I think it's an easier tank to get your shots because it's higher off the ground. Yes, you don't have the best camo, I get that, but when you're a tank such as T95, getting over hills and things like that, shooting, getting hull down, it's not really possible. So you kind of have to crest hills and then people can pen you. So slightly tougher to play, I think. The TNA2, I see a lot of people do very well in this tank, even not very good players. You can snipe in this tank if you want. So I'm going to put it as a strong tank for now. T30, I think I've got to go very strong. It got a buff a while back, which it didn't need. The armor got enhanced. The gun has always been solid. I've always thought this is a great tank. To me, it's verging on OP. If you're a great player, I think it would be OP, but for most players, I think it will just be here. Oh, I see, I see. This must be the E75. I know what I'm missing. Yes, my beloved E75. Doesn't, doesn't really look like E75. I'm going to go in very strong as well. I see a lot of players do quite well with it. Armor, tough to pen sometimes. Again, with some tanks, those lower caliber guns really struggle. The Object 84, I think this is a tough tank for many people to play. Yeah, we're moving to the Soviet tanks now. Sorry. It's doesn't quite have the pen. It's very low to the ground. It's not as fast as you want it to be. I've always liked it, and that spotting mechanism is fantastic. So if you understand that, I'd put it into normal, but I still think most people don't really understand how to play it. So it's going to stay there. The SU-12254, it's a tank destroyer. It's fast. It can get you out of trouble if you need to, and that DPM is the highest in the game, so use it. The T-54. No, wait a minute. I've already got a T-54. Sorry. Okay, it's one of those tanks I have to figure out as I go along. Dang it. Maybe that's a Chinese tank. I'm thinking here. I'm thinking. The Foch. The Tier 9. I think got nerfed recently, so it's not able to perform as well as it once could. It was a very strong tank at one time. I really liked it. I did very well in this tank. It was just a breeze to get 60%, and yeah, just I was so wild and crazy in this tank, and didn't affect my my stats at all. The AMX 31 Proto, whatever it's called, it's fast, but it can get you in trouble. So I'm just going to go in normal. It's a little better than these tanks. Guns pen's not the best, but it's got some sneaky armor, troll armor for sure. The AMX 5120 got those 3 shells. It's harder to keep alive, so that's why I give the edge to the K91. But you can still help your team out quite substantially if you just consider what you have, and that is a autoloader. So you fire your shots, get back behind cover, wait for those shells to reload, and pop back in. This is a great clipper tank. So you go in and you get rid of those low health tanks. Let's say they're at 600 hit points. I mean, you can come in, swoop in. You've got 900 hit potential. Even if you bounce one, you've still got 2 more in the magazine. So easy to take out tanks. If they're 300, you're golden. The Bat Chat. It's fast. It can do some spotting, all that stuff, but it's not a great tank for most players. I think they struggle. Without armor, you're going to struggle. Bottom line. Sorry, unless you know what you're doing. And newer players or average players don't really know what they're doing. The Conch. Statistics on this tank are not very good. I'm not really sure why. I guess I think people are too aggressive in it. It can play hull down, although the turret is not that reliable. But it's got hit points to keep you alive, so I have to give it strong. Yeah, I love the gun on this. I really, really love the gun on it. One of my favorite guns in Tier 9, I think, I have to say. The Vickers. CR, this got nuked in the recent update, so I'm going to drop it down. It used to be very strong. It's going to be normal. Maybe just normal. It was very strong before. But for newer players, I would still say it would only get into strong. Lack of armor, guys. Scent 7-1, hull down. It's great. It got a boost speed. It stays alive on the battlefield a little bit longer. Yeah, I think it's okay for most players. I'm just thinking, should I move the Foch out of here? The armor is decent, speed decent. Yeah, I guess it plays like a 704, so I'm gonna move into strong. I apologize. Even with the nerf, it's I think it can still perform. Yeah, I'm just thinking about average games, and it's a tough one. Anyway, moving on to the Conway. You're supposed to snipe. You're not supposed to charge in. Your gun is very, very solid. Play these in a platoon, and wow, I think you can do decent in this tank. I think you can do better than the Vickers now in this tank, so I'm gonna give it the edge. Tort, it's slow. You can definitely do damage in this tank though, so you can help your team that way. Bounce a few shells. I like the Tort. I've got a great Tort video. It might have been uploaded already. I don't know, but oh my goodness, some great games. My one of my subs had, and I had to share them. What else have we got? Um, hmm. Oh, another one snuck in here. Don't know what that is. Okay, we're moving on to the Japanese tanks, and we have the Type 61, a medium. I think it's slightly better than these tanks. I'm going to put it in normal. I don't see players do very well in it. Considered a sniper and a hull down type of tank. Can really be played well by good players, so going to very strong, but for average players, I think it's going to be just a normal tank, sadly. The Type 68 does have kind of troll armor. It keeps it alive longer than maybe it should, especially against those weaker caliber guns, so it's going to strong. The Hori will get a few bounces. The armor is solid, but lack of a turret hurts it. Moving on to the Chinese tanks, starting off with the WZ-111 GFT. Is that it? Oh yeah, that's right. It must be. The 111s are tier 9, right? Again, it doesn't have a turret, very much like a Hori. Pretty standard. I don't know what. I mean, playing these tanks feels so similar. I don't feel a big difference in these tanks. I honestly don't. The WZ-111 14, it's got armor. It'll get some bounces. It's one of the weaker heavy tanks, but I think it's good enough. Oh, I think I figured it out. This is the WZ-114. And again, this is a tank a lot of players, I think good players, it'll go into very strong, but the gun is intimidating. It's just got a long reload, so I'm going to keep it in strong. It's not a tank I have. I'm interested in getting this. I think it'll be fun for me, but I think for most players, it's just going to scrape into strong just because it's a heavy tank. We do have the WZ-120. One of these is the 120. I think that's this one. It looks so similar. Okay, I think the WZ-1. I'm going to say this is the WZ-120. Lack of gun dispersion hurts this tank, so kind of want to put it here, but it's got the same gun depression as the Object 40. It's like 84, but I think this has got more armor, which keeps it alive just that little bit longer. The WZ-132A, unfortunately, it's not a good tank for newer players. I mean, it's a light tank. You're going to get shellackered every which way you turn. So, got to be careful. Moving on to the European line, and starting off with the Emil 2. I think I'm just going to go strong. It's an auto reloader, very strong. I don't see that many newer players playing this tank right now. It's actually not a tank I see on the battlefield these days. I'm going to give it very strong, I guess, because that auto reloader mechanism can really help you out in a bind. What else we got? And we have the VZ-51. It's a heavy tank. Shocker, it goes here, strong. I like it. I think it was the surprise of the line for me. But I don't think it's a tank I would recommend for newer players. The standard B, it's got no armor, but I still think a lot of people could do decently well in this tank. It's probably the best medium in tier 9 at present. That HE, very effective. If you get around tanks, you can really light them up. The Skoda, again, your job is to dish out damage. That's what you can do. It's a little bit hard to do it, but I'm still going to put it in strong. Yeah, I think it's it's easier to play because you just pop out 3 shots, run away. So, what else we got? We do have the CC MK2, I think, or something like that. I can't pronounce the full name. Armor's very good. Again, It's got that auto reloading system, so I'm gonna put it in very strong. Just don't fire that last shell unless you absolutely have to, or you have a chance to, get behind cover for quite some time. Now we have the 50 TP, which is, I think it's this one, and this is very much like an E75. The armor is very solid. It's not a hard tank to play. I think I'm going to go into very strong. I think it's just going to sneak in there. The 50 TP Proto is also going in there. I think it's slightly better than the tech tree version, although some people have said the tech tree version is better. I don't know. Potato, potato, whatever. I mean, it's the same thing pretty much. If you do well in one, you can do well in the other. So, yeah. This is I think it's called the Regressor. It was the Tier 9 variant that Wargame decided to put in Season 1. I think, yes. And I didn't get it because I didn't want to spend a crap ton of money to get a tank, which is almost identical to two tanks I already had. So, I mean, I'm not going to comment on that. I would assume it's somewhere up here, but maybe it's just strong. Who knows? I think this is the Phase 1, which I've only seen on the battlefield a handful of times. Maybe I can count on, 5 times I think I've seen it in game. I'm like, oh my god, they have a Phase 1. I guess it's strong. It's like a better M103. I can't wait for them to take this out of the super crate and just sell it. Come on, give me a break, Wargame. People want this. Give people what they want. Give people what they want. So, we are now missing one tank, the CS-59. And I think this might be it here. Is this it? I'm going to go with this one. It looks like the CS. It looks very much like a standard stock me. It's a tough tank to play. Yeah, I mean, it's a medium. I think for newer players, they're just going to struggle with it. It just doesn't have any super redeeming factors. The gun is not amazing. The armor is not amazing. The speed's not amazing. So you've got nothing to really rely on. Is it a bad tank? No, not really, but it's not good either. But newer players need something, an advantage over the other tanks, like good armor or good gun or a good spotting or something that they can take advantage of. And these tanks here in the bad category, sadly, none of them really stand out. I mean, I love the 84 spotting mechanism. Spot up tanks. 20 seconds, they can't run away. It's awesome. But, yeah. Now then, I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tanks at the bottom. I've already said I think this is the regressor. I know there's a new scent tank. I don't think it's even here. That's the Season 2 Tier 9 tank. I forgot what it's called. And I assume these snuck in because they were in World of Tanks. Tell me in the description below if they are or if they're tanks that are coming into the game soon. This looks familiar, but they all look familiar after you've looked at the tanks for a while. So yeah, that's it. That is my Tier 9 list. None of these tanks are yuck, except maybe the PTA and the ST1 stock. They are yucky tanks, but fully upgraded. That's my pick. If you're a newer player, if you're an average player and you don't really understand how to play this game yet, I think these are the tanks you're going to be able to do well with up here. These are the tanks you're going to struggle with down here. None of them are yuck. There's not a yuck tank among them. I do think maybe the Leopard PTA is one of the lowest stat-wise. Probably the WZ and the, what is it, the WZ130 and the CS59, that's right, WZ132 or something like that, I forgot what it is. These tanks are probably in the bottom, at the bottom of the stat category. I can't be sure about that. This might be also pretty bad. This also might be pretty bad. And the bad jacket has no armor. Again, I would imagine they're somewhere near the bottom. But on the battlefield, when I see them out and about and I see not horrible players playing them, just normal, average players, that's, I think, what you can expect. Generally, you can have a great game in any tank, just a little bit of luck. Great lineups that just work in your favor. You go to the right position, you can snipe all day long and no one's spotting you. It just really depends on so many factors, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about generally. Generally. You don't have to agree with me. That's what I see on the battlefield. I think you'll have an easy time up here and you'll have a tough time down here. So, with that, I will see you tomorrow with my tier 10 countdown. Maybe it's the one you've been waiting for, but I mean, all the other YouTubers had done that, and I thought, you know what, you'd probably be bored listening to another YouTuber. I mean, you had Happy, you had Fatness, and you had Droodles all give their opinion. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to start on the opposite end of the spectrum and work my way up, and hope that was helpful for you. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow. Snugs and Blitz out.